Support for this podcast comes from Frito-Lay and the 2023 Snack Bracket Championship. The Frito-Lay Snack-It Challenge is underway, and fans are voting on their favorite snacks to crown champion. We're talking about prime-time matchups between the best 64 snacks in the land. Will Ruffles Ridges reign supreme? Can Doritos defend their dynasty? Or will Smart Food use their smarts for a surprise upset? Only you can decide. Get in on all the action for a chance to win up to $1,000 or a year's worth of snacks. Let your snacks be heard. Just go to fritolaysnacket.sbnation.com to vote and enter for a chance to win. No purchase necessary. Sweepstakes ends April 3rd, 2023. Void where prohibited. Year's worth of snacks awarded in the form of 52 coupons, each good for one bag of chips. See official rules at fritolaysnacket.sbnation.com.
What's happening tonight, fans? Welcome to the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast. Jeff, Sharon, Brian Murphy, and Luke Sarris with you. Savage Luke in the house here, and as we get ready for NFL draft weekend. How many people have you been smacking down on Twitter of late, Luke?
It's been a quiet off season. I've taken some time. I want to recharge the battery. So when football season rolls around, I'll be ready to go again.
Yeah, you're hitting the weights. You're
metaphorical weights.
Right. Murph is here too. No doubt. Okay. There's no quarterbacks from UCF for the Giants to take, right, Murph? So we don't have to worry about that.
This is correct.
Yeah,
Justin Holman.
Well, no. Justin was a free agent, right? Yeah. So he was. So he would be. They would have to. I was about to say they would have to peel him away from the Atlanta Legends, but not so much.
All right.
Anyway, yeah, I know. Anyway, here we are. We are Black and Gold Banneret, blackandgoldbanneret.com, UCF's home on the SB Nation Network. You can follow us at facebook.com/blackandgoldbanneret and UCF_Banneret on Twitter. You can follow each of us individually at Jeff_Sharon, Spokes_Murphy, and Luke Sarris, SARRISSBN on Twitter. By the way, Lopez is going to join us a little bit later. We're actually recording this on Wednesday night, April 24th, and softball just completed their victory over Bethune-Cookman 7-0. So he's finishing that out. He'll probably be joining us a little bit later to talk about that and lots of other stuff. We're going to be talking some tennis. We're going to be talking some golf. We'll be talking about baseball. Murph and Luke, I know you guys are going to be thrilled about that. But we will begin with what's coming up next. Thursday night starts the NFL draft for 2019. And several UCF players are getting a little bit of buzz. And that's why Luke is here to try and break some of that down. So there were, if you count the guys who went to UCF Pro Day, plus Dredrick Snelson, who left early, UCF has 13 players who are at least eligible to be drafted. Obviously, they're not all going to be drafted, but I guess we'll start with this. And some of the names, pretty familiar names, Tristan Hill, Mac Loudermilk, Matt Wright, Michael Colabiali, Pat Jasinski, Wyatt Miller. I mentioned Snelson, Titus Davis, Kyle Gibson, Joey Connors, et cetera, et cetera. However, from what I've been seeing, guys, the only UCF guy who's been getting a lot of draft buzz has been Tristan Hill. Obviously, last year UCF had, 5 guys go. This year, Hill, it's at least possible, could be the only guy who goes for UCF from in this year's draft class. But Luke, we'll start with you. I don't know. Hill seems to be the most likely Knight who's going to go. Would he be the only one?
If you're asking for my crystal ball prediction, I do think he's the only one that gets drafted. It's not that big of a group. A lot of the core talent for this UCF team, they're still on the team. So this is one of those gap years where there's not as much talent, graduating or declaring. But yeah, I think Hill will be the only one represented in the draft. but I think he will be picked a lot earlier than most people think. So it'll be a good look for UCF.
Where do you think he'll be? Where do you think he'll be taken? Since I think everything's at the third round. Do you think he'll be taken before that?
Well, I wasn't going to talk about that. I thought we were like segueing to.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, hey, look, we'll go ahead and put you on the spot, Luke. We're not below that.
No, I definitely think he will. If you're asking me my opinion, I think he'll be taken in the third round. But there are some draft analysts who are saying he might be. There's talks of him being a top 60 pick, that we could see him taken in the second round. So his draft stock kind of just skyrocketed out of nowhere. But like I said, it'll be a good representation for UCF on draft day.
There was a little bit of, I don't want to say controversy. I think that's a strong word. I'll throw this open to the both of you because there's a little bit of complaints about, was he misused at UCF? Why didn't we see more of him? Because when he was in there, he was totally dominant. I don't know. What is that? Just typical NFL draft, batting back and forth, building a guy up to knock him down, or is there a there?
I mean, people who say that UCF underutilized Tristan Hill or are questioning why he didn't play more don't understand the psychology of Tristan Hill. The reason why he didn't play, or at least why he didn't start out of the gate last year, is because he didn't want to learn the 4-3 system. He didn't want to learn the 4-3 defense that Randy Shannon was installing. He saw himself as a 3-4 nose tackle and was very sort of obstinate to sort of just stay there and just become like a nose tackle, no ifs, ands, or buts. And they sort of had to break him down and say, look, you're going to have to play this role. And he, got with the program, but it took a while. He wasn't always the best player on the practice field. His effort is inconsistent. There's lots of maturity questions that surround Tristan Hill. I think all of the issues about the red flags and what he can and can't do all have to do with like his mental mindset and his psychology. Like physically, he is great when he wants to be great. And so he could be a major steal for some team in the third round because he's got first round ability with his, if he goes with a consistent motor, with his athleticism and his bowling ball size, he can be great. But it's can he do it consistently? Can he get someone to really tap into him and get him fired up and come to practice every day and compete hard every day and keep his nose clean, all those kind of things off the field too. Because if someone gets to him and straightens him out, he can be absolutely fantastic and a major steal.
By the way, Murph, folks, if you're listening at home, you can cross off motor on your draft cliche bingo board. So congrats to Murph on using that. It's that could be a red flag for some teams. I know that he's taken visits, at least reportedly, with the Browns, Texans, Packers, Eagles, Cowboys, Dolphins, and Jets. I know that the Cowboys really like him.
15 total teams.
15 total teams? Okay, so
and
wow.
The reason I know that is because I'm writing his draft profile right now.
and listen, and I think you brought up a good point earlier that let's say he is the only UCF Knight drafted. That's not necessarily a bad thing for UCF. People are going to look at me like, wow, where's all your talent? Actually, they're all still here. That's actually not a bad thing. All right, so let me throw this back to you, Luke. Or actually, I'll throw this to the both of you. If a second UCF Knight gets drafted on any one of the 3 days, who do you think it'll be? And Luke, we'll start with you.
I mean, I think the only viable option there would be Dredrick Snelson. But I still don't think he'll be drafted. I'm not really sure I'm not sure where he got the advice or the insight that led him to declaring, but I haven't heard pretty much anything surrounding him.
That was my thought too. I was searching around for him all over the place, and there's literally no news on him. And obviously he was an early entry, so he didn't go to the he didn't go to pro day at UCF. I think he went back down home down to South Florida to train. But yeah, you're right. I haven't seen anything on him either, which strikes me as kind of weird. No.
100%. But with that being said, I think he would be the only other option to get drafted. But like I said, I don't think that will happen.
Murph, what do you think?
Well, I would say that Dredrick wasn't pro. He was at the UCF Pro Day.
Oh, he was. Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, he did. He did attend the Pro Day. He actually compared himself to Keenan Allen and a few other All Pros that I forget. But it was like, okay, well, you can't knock confidence.
That's been his personality the entire time he's been at UCF.
Yeah,
that's exactly true.
Yeah, we're gonna put 70 on him.
Yeah, that too. Which
I'll admit I will miss that.
Which might or might not have gotten him suspended for a game, or benched for a game for saying that. I think it's kind of a toss for me as to whether who can get drafted besides Tristan Hill, and my name is not. I don't think it's Nelson. I think it's either Wyatt Miller or Titus Davis. I think Wyatt Miller, you could always use offensive lineman in the NFL, and I think he's not big enough to stay at tackle. He's probably not 300 pounds, so he's going to have to kick inside to guard. But I think he could do that with his experience. And I think Titus Davis, with his experience playing both on the line as a pass rusher and then as a linebacker next to Shaquem Griffin a couple years ago, he can play both sides of a 3-4-4-3. He's way undersized, but being undersized as a pass rusher isn't really a detriment anymore if you're ultra quick. Now he's not. He is not a hyper athlete, but I think he at least has the knowledge of playing multiple positions as a proficient enough pass rusher to give himself a look in a pass rush league. So I think if I had to choose one of those two, I'd say Wyatt Miller's probably a nose ahead of Titus Davis for me.
Yeah, Davis is an interesting case because it seems like the tools are there for him to be a sort of for him to play linebacker, but it just seems that everything is so crowded in there. We'll do a little sort of rapid fire here, and I'll throw these open to the both of you. Well, I was going to start with Michael Colabiali, but it looks like Jacksonville is pretty dead set on maybe bringing him in as an undrafted free agent. So put him aside for now. But Pat Jasinski, what do you think might be the option for him there? And again, possible free agent, or could he be in a late round pickup?
No, free agent if only. I mean, he can't move backwards.
That seems like a problem.
No, I know this is a UCF podcast. We need to be favorable for UCF players, but like if we're going to adjust, if we're going to judge them as pro talent evaluators will, you look at Pat Jasinski. He is a guy who really hits you hard when he's coming at you forward, but his back pedal and his lateral agility are just absent. He just doesn't have any of that. So if he gets going forward with a head full of steam, he's great. But yeah, I just don't see him having enough of the athleticism or of agility to be a draft pick at all.
Yeah, he's a true run stopping, linebacker. You see him in pass coverage by either mistake or on purpose. Most of the time by mistake. Yeah, it's tough. He's got a great motor. Keyword.
There you go. Knock it off twice.
Listen, he hits hard, and I think he's one of those guys. He gives you everything he can give within his physical limits, but I think his physical limitations as far as athleticism and speed. I I honestly, I don't believe he'll even get a look as an undrafted free agent. Maybe he'll wind up in a rookie camp, but I think it'll be very similar to a Terrence Plummer situation where, successful career ECF, although I think Terrence Plummer was a better linebacker. But just didn't cut it in the NFL. Maybe he'll have a career up in the top head of America, the Canadian Football League,
or the XFL. Vince, if you're listening, Kyle Gibson. What do we think of Kyle?
Go ahead, Luke. Go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. I was just gonna say I completely forgot Kyle Gibson was part of this group. I think I don't know if he listens, but if somebody tells him about this, I didn't mean that in a bad way.
I think we pretty much say that about all these guys. I mean, it's not that we don't like you. It's just we got to be honest with the audience. And if by the way, if you are listening and you're listening to this and your blood is boiling, good. Prove us wrong. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. I think his issue will be lack of opportunity. But I think if he gets an opportunity somewhere along the lines to prove himself, I think he can be a little bit of a hidden gem. I mean, he's a very talented player, and he showed that at UCF. I just think the issue he'll have is getting those opportunities to prove himself. But I think if he gets the right opportunity, I think he'll surprise some people. I've always been a big Kyle Gibson fan. He was a late bloomer at UCF, but he really developed into everything they thought he would be when they signed him.
SD Highlights actually called him the most underrated safety in the nation. I mean, we know he's experienced. He was a redshirt senior. Certainly played his share of key games over the last few years. He went to another football factory in Armwood Senior High School, so at least he's from some familiar grounds on there. I don't know, Murph. You always got to look at these guys just as well as Luke did. What do you think about Kyle?
And I think Kyle probably had, I don't know, if you gave him some truth serum, say he had a bit of a disappointing senior season. I mean, because he was so good as a junior and got himself as a preseason watch list as a senior. I think he didn't live up to expectations, and I don't think we really bagged him much on it because Richie Grant was just so good. It didn't really matter that Kyle Gibson was dropping off a bit because Richie Grant picked up all the slack. Right. But Kyle is an aggressive safety. I think we know he likes to hit people because I don't know if there's any player ever who has ended back-to-back seasons prematurely due to targeting penalties. But that happened with Kyle in both the Peach Bowl and the Fiesta Bowl. I don't know if he is that great in coverage. I really don't know if he's that good in run defense. I mean, it's like technique-wise, he's like moderate at best. Like, he's a decent ball hawk, but I don't really see a whole lot of like standout skills. Since we're talking about defensive backs, I will say one guy that I like and for a really, really deep cut, and only because it's literally based on the last month of the season. I thought Rashard Causey was this team's best defensive back for the past month of the year, and maybe he's only a nickel back or only a slot back. And he doesn't get hardly a look, but he really locked down some really good slot receivers with the Temple game, the Cincinnati game, late in the year with Memphis, and I think LSU wasn't as good, but he really had some really strong games. I thought he was the best corner they had, the best DB outside Richie Grant they had on that team for the last month of the season. So I hope he gets at least a look. If someone gives him a look, I feel like I'll be satisfied because I just want him to get seen by somebody because I really thought he deserved it with how he played late in the year.
People forget Causey was a big recruit for UCF. He had a lot of really big offers, and it just it never really panned out throughout his career until this past season. I mean, even then he still wasn't a starting corner. I mean, you saw him in the nickel, but I agree with Murph on that. Definitely one of the most undervalued defensive players UCF had this past season.
Yeah. And it's a credit to, the fact that I think UCF was so loaded in the secondary the last couple of years too. I think that's, like you were saying, Murph, I mean, that's one of the keys. Like, and guys get lost in the shuffle, and you can't play all the defensive backs at one point. But I think, it's the same case in the NFL. It seems like out of a 53-player roster, probably 20 of them are defensive backs in the NFL.
Right.
There's space for you somewhere, probably. Two guys real quick, Taj McGowan and Joey Connors. We're thinking undrafted free agent invitees, right?
Yes. I mean, Taj just is not his style of game really doesn't play much in the NFL anymore. He's a 1980s back. He doesn't catch. He's not multifaceted in any way. Joey's interesting because it doesn't look like he really is kind of sneaky athletic for a guy who looks like he's been just drinking old style for the past 3 weeks straight. I mean, really, his body.
Boy, these guys are all going to be thrilled with you, Murph. I'll tell
you. His body, his body on the field, wow, he's he's kind of a space filler, but he's not. He actually had some pretty good moves last year, and it got out of hand late in the year when Randy Shannon compared him to. I want to say he compared him to Fletcher Cox, Aaron Donald, and Ndamukong Suh.
Wow, that's impressive.
That happened.
Randy for the comps, man.
It was great. You can actually that article's on the Black Gold Banneret. I wrote that up. But I guess he's kind of sneaky athletic. I just don't think he's not really a pass rusher. He really is more of a run stopper, if anything. And I just don't think he's probably not gonna get a look because Tristan Hill is gonna get all the looks on that defensive line.
Yeah. I guess we'll wrap this segment with two of our favorite nights of all time. The kickers, Mac Loudermilk and Matt Wright. I guess we'll start with Matty Ice because he didn't get the chance to really showcase his distance very much over the last couple of years because UCF scored a ton of touchdowns, but that's one thing that I think if you get him in there, if a team does get him in there, is there a chance that you could see him because he was incredibly accurate with his kicking this year and really improved on that, I thought too, right? I guess Luke, I'll defer to you on that one.
Yeah, 100%. It just he didn't get as many opportunities as most kickers do, but when it was time for him to kick that field goal, I think I speak for every UCF fan when I say you expected that to make it between the uprights. Kicking so. I've never really understood how kickers get their opportunity in the NFL. I think Matt Wright can. I don't know if he will. I always think back to I thought Caleb Houston was such a great punter.
Mm-hmm.
And he didn't get any looks, so not that I recall anyway. Or maybe he wasn't as good of a punter as I remember. But I just remember thinking, why? I don't understand the dynamic of specialists with the NFL. So I couldn't tell you honestly if he has any sort of chance or not. I'll defer to Murph on this one.
Well, I think the only thing that really sets kickers apart, place kickers, is if you have a giant leg. If you're like a Sebastian Janikowski, then you get noticed because you can nail anything from past the 50-yard line. People will take a look at you. Matt Wright does not have that type of leg. I don't know what his max yardage was. I don't think it was above 55. I can imagine. But for Matt Wright, here's what I want. I do not want him going to the NFL. I want him being sent to Cape Canaveral and to fill out his aerospace engineering dreams and to work with SpaceX or NASA. That's what he wants to do in life, and that's what I'd like for him to do as well.
That's very kind of you, man.
He'll be successful either way.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. We're not worried about Matt Wright's success. I will say this. For his career, Matt was 55 of 71. That's 77.5%. But last year, he was 12 out of 14 And just to put it into perspective, his first season as a kicker was 2015 as a freshman. He was 17 of 17 on extra points. In 2017, 2 years later, he was 80 of 81 on extra points. So that gives you an idea of the kind of seasons he was having. I don't have any data on his long, however, from this, so that's unfortunate. But nonetheless, if you're finishing up with accuracy, it's good. And we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about Mac Loudermilk, who obviously cut his hair, cut his beard, donated it to Locks of Love. Look, he's back to his freshman year baby face looking self. We saw a video of him actually kicking not a camp, but in terms of a workout, and it looks like he's been working pretty hard on honing his skills in advance of the draft. And it's so hard to predict a kicker getting drafted, but do you think Mac will get a look at the next level? Somebody bringing him in for a preseason look or two. What do you think, Murph?
Oh man, he cut the hair off, so it's like Samson.
I mean, it actually. He's like,
but for a good cause, right? Like,
yeah,
we can't get down.
Cause, yeah, but well, I hope it's not like Samson. Geez, because he was. I hate to say, I don't know if you agree with this or not, but he was so marketable. It's crazy, but
I agree.
Yeah, but now I don't know, but
No.
yeah, someone should give him a look, right? I mean, I thought his numbers improved towards the end of the year last year. No.
Yeah, I mean, again, with kickers, it's really like, do you catch one executive's eye that he'll take a look at you, for a camp somewhere? Like, they're not going to be drafted. So, do you catch anyone's eye that maybe you get an invite to a camp and then maybe an injury befell somebody in front of you and you get your chance?
Mm-hmm.
But there's really nothing. I mean, what can you say? I mean, really, what can you say? I don't know. I have no idea.
Well, he averaged 43.4 last year, which is not the greatest average in the world, but if you can boost that average up above 45, I think, at least in terms of workouts, I think that might be something that guys will take a look at. All right, so the NFL draft starts on Thursday. It's the first round Thursday, second and third round on Friday night, and then rounds 4 through 7 on Saturday during the day, and it's televised in 15 different places now. It used to be only on ESPN. Now it's ESPN, NFL Network. They're putting some of it on.
ESPN,
I know
Ocho.
Some of it's on the Ocho. There are simulcasts. I think Fox is somehow involved.
ABC.
Yeah. And it's in Nashville this year. Is that right?
Yeah, that's an interesting pick, Nashville. Remember when they moved it out? They moved it out of New York and they put it in Chicago for a year. It's like, oh, I get it. Or they moved it to Dallas. Oh, yeah, I kind of get that because Dallas, the Cowboys. Nashville. That's an interesting.
Very 21st century city, don't you think?
Big football town.
Yeah, big football town. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Like Nashville's, it was a center of culture for the latter part of the 20th century, and now it's like the secret's out, right? It's kind of like Austin.
Yeah, I knew you were gonna say that. I knew you.
How did you know I was gonna? All right, so we'll be following the NFL draft. Luke, you got some work coming up. I know you've got something on Tristan coming up, and then I think you're looking at a couple other guys as late round draftees, right?
Yep. Should be seeing that here shortly as I wrap that up. Also, side note, Matt Wright, career long.
I'm gonna say it's less than 55.
Well, I mean, I think most college kickers' career long is less than 55.
Yeah. Oh, I'm going to say 51. Is it 51?
It is, per the reliable ESPN, 50.
50 on the dot. Okay.
50 on the dot. So
you guys have talked to former players. I've talked to former players, and they all say the same thing: is that all I want is a shot. If I get a shot and I don't make it, I can live with that. But all I want is a shot. And these guys, that's what I hope for every single one of these guys, is that they all get a shot. If they don't make it, they don't make it. That's okay. I'm sure that a lot of them can live with it. But at least they know that they gave it an opportunity. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. That's okay.
Let's be honest. If these guys get a camp invite, you can't even say they'll get a fair shot. because it's not up to them. If the guy in front of them stays healthy, it really doesn't matter how much they'll play. It's a game of numbers, and they just get X'd out. No one picks them up, and oh well. So it's tough, but you would like to see someone like not even a fair shot, just like you said, Jeffrey. Any feeler at all for a pro team for these guys on the very far fringes, the Loudermilks, the Connors, the Causeys, guys like that. Like, yeah, that'd be great, and that's all we'd really like to see.
Yeah.
Well, that was the beauty of having the Apollos for a while.
Yeah.
These guys might get their shot with the Apollos, but
Yeah, and at the very least, it was another opportunity for them to get their shot, And I mean, there are guys who, I'm sure that some of these guys might get a look from the Orlando Predators.
You know how much the Orlando Predators get paid?
Nothing, pretty much.
$225 a week.
What?
Man, because I know that the guys in the Apollos, they were making $7,000 a game. They were all making so 10 regular season games. That's $70,000 a year. That's pretty decent, upper middle class salary for 4 months of work. And $220 man. I know they're just only restarting the franchise. And
that's the league. That is the league pay.
Yeah.
I think housing may be included. I heard that somewhere, but
the housing's worth housing where if they're making $220 a week?
No. That's what I'm saying. I think the team may provide some sort of, I don't know. Long story short, I know it's like $225 a week, and that is why I think most of those guys have regular jobs. I mean,
Kyle Israel's there. I mean,
He's the GM of Little Greek. Love that place.
Yeah, and
free
he's
advertising. You're welcome.
The Orlando Predators. So I'll have to reach out to Kyle, see if we can get on to have him talk about the situation out there. But anyway, like we said, good luck to all these guys. We'll be following this the NFL draft as it goes and letting you know where guys go as they go. Probably won't be as busy a draft weekend this weekend for UCF guys as it was last year, but you never know. We could be wrong. It's the NFL draft. It's weird. Murph, how you feeling about Daniel Jones?
I have no idea. I guess I'm not feeling that great because I've heard so much more about Haskins than Daniel Jones that I really haven't formed a great opinion. I just know that if the Giants do draft Daniel Jones, they will screw it up royally. So I'm looking forward to that.
Well, I don't know. Yeah. Well, another Cutcliffe quarterback. Anyway, we're going to take a break. When we get back, we're going to talk to Eric Lopez. He's going to be back. He's going to talk softball with us, and we'll also talk a little bit about we'll talk a little bit about men's golf and women's golf, and also the tennis teams playing in the American Athletic Conference Championships and getting the split at Lake Nona. The chances that they both might come back to Lake Nona for the NCAAs in a couple weeks. That and more in a little bit. This is the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast. Back after this.
Today's episode is brought to you by Cars.com. With over 2 million vehicles and 50,000 more added every day, Cars.com will match you with the perfect car for you, your budget, your life, your style. And if you're ready to say goodbye to your current car, Cars.com will get you an instant offer to cash it in. Just start by entering your license plate and get matched with a local dealer who will write you the check. So whether you're looking to buy or sell, just go to Cars.com. It's magical.
All right, welcome back to the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast. Jeff, Sharon, Brian Murphy, and Luke Sarris with you. And Eric Lopez is joining us fresh off of UCF Softball getting, splitting a doubleheader today, but we'll get to that in a second. But and Eric's fired up about it, I know. But we have other pressing conference news to deal with. Eric Lopez this weekend, what a weekend it was for UCF women's tennis as they take their first conference championship since 2002 when they were in the Atlantic Sun. The UCF women's tennis team wins the American by sweeping South Florida. The Knights went a perfect 12-0 in the conference tournament en route to victory and the number 24 ranking. and they earn a spot in the NCAAs on the Easter Sunday. It was a big win for Brian Kaneko. And by the way, Valeria Zaleva, who is the number 19 player in the country for UCF, once again, or actually, she won the conference most outstanding player. Wow, it was just a remarkable performance by Brian Kaneko's team, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I remember we talked about it, and certainly being the top seed, being in Lake Nona there, and to beat South Florida, your rivals, and lock up that title, deal with some of the elements with the tournament being pushed back. Just an incredible 2-year run, really, if you go back to last year when they made the tournament for the first time since 2002, and they won that first round matchup. Just exciting, an amazing turnaround, and with men's tennis as well, as we'll get to. An amazing year for both tennis programs, and the fact that we're merely even talking about the tennis programs and making noise in the postseason. Jeff, I know you've covered this a lot longer than I did. Did you ever think those sentences would be combined there? UCF tennis and making a noise in the NCAA tournament, because this women's team can make noise here.
Yeah, I always thought that they could. But it depended on whether or not they made the amount of investment that they wanted to, like we were talking about last week with this. And lo and behold, they did. They're 24th right now. They moved up a spot in the ITA. And here's the best part about this, Lopez, though, is that starting with the quarterfinals, that's hosted at Lake Nona. So they're trying to get back home. And
Wow.
Isn't it?
Wow, that's unbelievable. Lake Nona. So say that again. That's important to say that.
So the NCAA tennis tournament, the men's and women's tournaments coincide. It goes from May 16th through the 25th, both the men's and the women's. Starting with the team quarterfinals, that's the elite, that's the round of 8. It's all at Lake Nona. And then when that's over, when the team competition is done, then they have the singles and doubles tournaments. But that's a big way. So if UCF can get that far, they're playing with house money. They're at home. They're playing on their home court.
Now, the thing that worries me about that, because I've seen this happen in softball with Oklahoma, because the World Series is Oklahoma City. There's this theory out there that what they'll do is the team that's hosting the championship, they tend to give them a hard road to get there. So that's the thing that only worries me, is they might get a hard draw. And that's something we're going to have to look at when that draw comes out next week.
Well,
what kind of draw they get.
Sorry, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I just pulled up actually Slam.tennis. They actually do a men's and women's tennis bracketology. So we are breaking it down deep. Okay?
Woo, Murph!
What
a world, huh?
I know.
Where's Joe Lenardi on this?
I know. Well, this is what they've got. They've got for women. I don't know. It's just a thing here. I don't see even an author. But
Jesus.
maybe
it's Lenardi's side gig after basketball's done.
maybe. But right now they have UCF in a 4-team pod in Tallahassee.
Of
Florida
course,
State.
Always gotta go to Tallahassee. God darn it, a butt ride. Jeez.
Right now, they have the 4 teams with them. They have Florida State would be the 11th seed, so that gives you an idea of where in the bracket UCF would be. And they have Florida State playing South Alabama in the first round, and UCF playing Alabama.
Whoa! Who's claiming that victory? It's going to be big.
I know.
Social championship on the line.
I know. They have to defend our honor out there, man. But yeah, we do want Bama. That's what we're looking at right now is not a seed, not hosting, for at least the first 2 rounds.
How many teams they host?
4. It's a 4-team bracket.
No, I mean the whole tournament.
Oh, the whole team is 64.
So I would the top 16 hosts basically? Is that how it works?
Yeah, top 16 host.
And we're not a top 16. Unbelievable. All right, that's an outrage. That's clearly a P5 biasness. I'm going to tell you something. I don't want to hear football fans complain about the rankings anymore after this. I'm going to tell you that right now. That's outrageous. How are we not top 16, Jeffrey?
Well, Pepperdine is 6th. I just wanted to put that out there. Yeah, but let's give them credit. By the way, I think they have UCF would be the only American Athletic Conference team in the women's side that they're predicting to go in there. But again, we'll be waiting for the release of the bracket. And I know, Eric, you told me when they release the bracket. When does that come out again?
It's next week. I believe it's Monday.
Okay. So we'll be keeping
back to back on NCAA.com, unless somebody wants to leak it out in advance, which has happened.
ESPN's not televising it, so I don't think that's
but I accidentally leaked the men's soccer one this year, so because it was on tape.
No, you didn't. You did. It was already released. You just fast forwarded it through. I mean, you didn't make a mistake. They leaked it themselves. Yeah, you're welcome. Congratulations. Now, the men, on the other hand, not so lucky. They also played South Florida in the final, but they came up short 4-3. It did come down to the final group, but South Florida avenged a 4-0 loss to UCF in the just a week prior to that, exactly a week prior to that. And they come away with, I think, their 5th conference championship in the last 6 seasons. So a real bummer for UCF men's tennis. But I did a little bit of digging on this, Eric, and it's not so bad because obviously, like we said, number one, they already beat South Florida once in the week prior and beat them 4-0. Now UCF's overall record is 15-10. Might not look all that great, but bear in mind that 16 of their 25 matches this season for UCF men's tennis has been against 15 teams ranked in the ITA top 50 as of right now. They're 6-10 in those matches, but and they had won 7 of their last 8 prior to being upset in the conference championship. So that's why in the latest ITA they're 28th. But or that actually no, wait a minute. Let me double check that because that was supposed to come out on Tuesday. They dropped only 1 spot. They're 29th in the latest ITA. So they played a ridiculously hard schedule. Played fairly well throughout that schedule too.
I remember. I kept telling you not to worry. You were all freaking out when they were off to the slow start win-loss record.
Well,
I told you don't.
They had lost they had lost some matches, some close matches where if they won, it felt like that could have given them a little bit more of a leg up. And you never know. I mean, 1 or 2 more of them they could be ITA top 20. I mean that's one of the things that you want to do.
The important thing is that number should get them into the tournament. And they'll be back there for the second time in 3 years under Roddick. Mm-hmm. And to my knowledge, Jeff, unless you know a bit more than I do, it's the first time that I think men's and women's tennis would be in the NCAA tournament.
I believe that's true. I would have to double check with. I'm
sure we'll get details officially next week.
Yeah.
But it's a remarkable story for John Roddick and company to get him in tennis. I mean, we've seen the matches on the Tennis Channel. People have been going out to the matches. I watched the finals in the American Championship. There was a crowd there. I mean, people are going to these tennis matches, and I don't know how they figured it out, but they figured out an audience that, hey, people will go watch tennis, and people have gone out to see the tennis tournaments. Give them credit.
Well, it comes down to the fact, just like every other sport, if they're good, if you're good, people will come. By the way, the men's tennis bracketology on Slam.Tennis has UCF in Gainesville. To play.
What is this? Well, golly,
I know.
It's typical. It's typical spring tradition, unlike any other.
Yeah.
UCF Sports bus to Gainesville or Tallahassee for the tournament.
They have Florida as the 4 seed, and it's an all-Florida pod there with UCF playing Florida State and Florida playing Florida Gulf Coast in their latest projection. By the way, 3 American Athletic Conference teams projected to make the field. Tulane is one, and South Florida.
And when does the tournament start? Next weekend, right?
Yeah, next weekend. So it's going to be right around the corner.
And then the following weekend, the the quarterfinals you said would be in Lake Nona.
May 15th, or May 16th. Starting May 16th, the quarterfinals. The team quarterfinals start in Lake Nona.
All right, no more excuses, Sharon. No more excuses, boys. We're going. We're going.
And regardless of if UCF wins, it gets that far or not, I think we should make a trip down there.
I don't think Luke and Murph might join then on that plan, but I'll join you on that. I'm joining with you.
Well, I've got an open weekend because baseball has an open weekend here in a few weeks. So, let's make
it a carpool. Listen, like I said, the Drive Shack is right down there. Okay, we can all go hang at the Drive Shack afterwards and take in a little bit of
I'll meet you guys at Drive Shack.
All right.
Just tops it.
Luke Sarris.
His first words like 15 minutes. I'll go meet you, Drive Shack.
Speaking of golf, I wanted to transition over to this. UCF women's golf. Yeah, UCF women's golf found out today that they are in the NCAA regionals. They will play in the Cle Elum regional field. Where is that, by the way?
Washington. It's where the University of Washington's
over. Man, hosted by the University of Washington.
13th Nationals, by the way. Very proud of women's golf. They don't worry about bus trips. They'll fly you anywhere.
Yeah, I know. Well, I mean, the luggage costs must be unbelievable, but there's not that many of them. USC is the one seed in that regional. UCF is playing, a bunch of Western teams, obviously, but not all Western teams. Arkansas is out there, South Carolina, Northwestern's out there, Miami is out there, Old Dominion, Ohio State. So a pretty good field out there for UCF to play. But congrats to Emily Marin. Once again, her team making the NCAA tournament, Eric Lopez.
6th time in 9 years women's golf has been in the NCAA tournament. 14th time overall that the program has been to the NCAA tournament. And it is the 7th UCF program this athletic year that has made postseason, gentlemen. And I'm talking NCAAs or bowl game.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of strengthens the argument that I think we've all been pushing for the last couple months. Just taking a full view of all this. This is the most successful year, I think, athletically, on the field or court or pitch or whatever. Most successful year in UCF athletics history.
I'm interested. All right, I'm already working on the spreadsheet, but this summer I want to look at combined records for all.
Like a story idea.
Combined records for all UCF teams across all the years and see which year has had the highest winning percentage. I think
not only that, but
be it.
But yeah, making the NCAA tournament is the goal for every one of these teams.
Right.
I mean, except for football. But really it is. So, I mean, no matter what the record is, they made it. They made it.
Yeah.
Well, and think about
it's not like golf has a record, really, but anyway.
Yeah, right.
But think about the conference championships, men's soccer, volleyball, football, making it women's golf finished runner-up in the conference championship. So, I mean, it's not just making the postseason. They're making it with a big punch. I mean, with conference titles. And
rowing is still to come here in May, and so we'll see what happens.
And they've been dominant year in year out. So
yeah. We're looking at, with both tennis teams and the rowing program, probably up to 10 teams making the NCAA tournament, and we don't know what's going to happen with track and field and the rest of the stuff. But I mean, we're looking at least 10 sports teams.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
I mean,
how many do we have, Jeff?
We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 18. Is that right? No, 6, 4, 8. I can't do math. 16 total sports.
There you go.
Wow. So you can get 60% of your teams in the NCAA tournament. That's pretty good.
That's not bad. Not bad. Not a bad day's work. Congrats also, by the way, to Elizabeth Moon, who was named Freshman of the Year in the American for women's golf. And Maria Balcazar and Elizabeth Moon were also named to the all-conference team. So congrats to them as well. Now, men's golf, we still have yet to find out about them. I think we find out next week. They came in third in the American Athletic Conference golf tournament. They were Memphis won it at straight even par. UCF finished in third. They were 13 over par as a team. Top individual performers were Kyler Tate, who finished in fourth at 4 under. The winner of the individual tournament was McClure Meissner of SMU, which is such a golf name. Minus 13. This kid shot 66, 66, 68.
Ouch.
Yeah. And en route to winning the individual medalist title ahead of another real great golf name, Austin Squires of Cincinnati. Kyler Tate, by the way, finished ahead of Albin Bergstrom of South. I'm just going to pronounce these names for fun. And Kyle Flexenhar of South Florida as well. Bobby Bye of UCF, by the way, finished at even par, 7th place in the medalist. So we're going to find out about Bryce Waller and the men's team within the next week. See
I don't know what this means. Golfstat.com, which has the rankings for golf, has men's golf ranked 75th. So I don't know if that may not be good, but I don't know.
It might not be the best, but
is there a golf bracketologist out there? Do we know?
I think you're looking at it on golfstat.com. But I do think though that looking at what they have left, I mean, yeah, I don't know. It's gonna be tough it's gonna be tough for them. I think the way this is coming out. Although third place finish in the conference, not too bad. So
now you realize that the selection show for that is next Wednesday, prime time on the Golf Channel. Getting prime time, 9 p.m. Eastern.
Wow.
Late night.
UCF Golf After Dark. All right. That takes us to softball, Eric Lopez, who ended a nasty schneid tonight. Now, by the way, the schneid somewhat continued with a loss in a doubleheader to FIU in 8 innings. You called both of those games and actually just got back home, but it's you're like literally walking through the door. But they got off the schneid with a 7-0 win against Bethune-Cookman, but it was rough. They got swept at Tulsa, and this was on the heels of getting swept by South Florida, so they'd lost 6 in a row in conference. I guess my question is about this team are they just in a swing of bad luck, or did the schedule just catch up to them? Are they really that? Is this really what they are, or have they just gotten caught at a bad part in the schedule?
I mean, it's a combination of things. I mean, you think back to the Tulsa series, they had a 2-0 lead going into the 6th inning, and then the Mother Nature decides to open up rain, and the lovely umpires in Tulsa, Oklahoma, which I've seen up close in person, decided, hey, this is still good weather. We can still play on this. Hey, why can't we play softball in the rain? Forget the fact that the pitcher can't hold a grip on the ball. So they played in the rain, and Tulsa scored 4 runs, and they get a 4-2 win, and then they come from behind in the 7th inning and come from behind and beat UCF. I mean, it just happens. And Murph and Luke, you guys could speak on this. It's no different in baseball, and it is in softball. A lot of this gets mental, and I don't care who you are. When a couple things go bad, it turns negative. These two sports are so based on failure. You fail more times than you succeed, and yet these players, when you lose a couple games or you go in a slump offensively, it gets in your head. And that's what's happened to this team. Now, hopefully Wednesday night, they scored 7 runs off Bethune-Cookman. Cassidy Brewer hit a home run. You're hoping a little positive like that can maybe just kind of free them up offensively here moving forward for the Houston series, because they've obviously been stymied offensively. Some of that credit to Tulsa pitching and South Florida pitching. But some of this is also mental from the standpoint of when you're struggling, you're pressing a little bit, and it just messes with your head. It's one of the more fascinating things about the sport of softball and baseball. I think that's why I think we all follow these two sports, because of the uniqueness of it, right?
Absolutely. Like you said, there's so much failure that if you succeed, 30, 40% of the time, you are fantastic.
Right.
And again, there's no harder thing to do in sports than hitting a round ball with a round bat. It's a moving ball that is moving fast and moving horizontally and vertically with a round, skinny bat. It doesn't make any sense, and yet people do it at spectacular levels. It's what makes the sport so much fun.
By the way, hitting a round ball with a round bat squarely. should say.
Yes.
Well, yeah. And Murph, I mean, you've talked about it. I'm sure you guys have addressed it with the baseball and the struggles and some of the portions of the lineup. And sometimes it just gets to you mentally. If you don't hit for a while, it's tough to get out of a slump. I feel in baseball and softball, it's a lot harder to get out of a slump than it is to maintain your success, just because of the randomness of the game. You could be hitting the ball as well as you did 2 weeks ago, but instead of hitting the gaps and the holes, you're hitting the ball right at people. It's just a very frustrating sport at times, and I think UCF's hit that. Remember, you still got a lot of youngsters on this roster, and they have to deal with that. You're talking about 17 to 21-year-olds. I mean, we've seen big leaguers making millions of dollars struggle. What did Chris Davis go, 48 at-bats without a hit? Or some ridiculous?
59 plate appearances.
That's incredible, and that's a big leaguer. So, it's a struggle. It's not been pretty. I get it. I know, fans have hit me up, so I get it. But you hope that the Bethune-Cookman game is a positive there, get some confidence offensively. Brianna Vasquez had a career-high 11 strikeouts, and they got a big series with their rivals in Houston this weekend. So, I mean, they've got to find some mojo here to make a run here to have a shot at making the NCAA tournament.
Well, what do they got? They got Houston coming up. Is that right? So What we know how these two schools go at it. But what is the scouting report on Houston this year, Elo?
Well, Houston's deep on pitching. They have the other co-pitcher of the year in the American Conference in Savannah Hebner. They've decided they've gone more of the baseball route. They'll start 3 pitchers on a weekend. I mean, they're very baseball-esque from that standpoint. They've had some similar struggles offensively than UCF has, but they've picked it up lately. Their RPI is 40. UCF's at 50. So this is a huge series here. I think the winner of this series, especially if it's Houston, they take a big step into maybe being that third team in the American Conference to be an at-large possibility for the NCAA tournament. Whereas possibly the loser of this series is probably thinking we got to win the conference tournament in Houston in a couple of weeks to make the tournament. So it's going to be intense. It's going to be a big series. What's fascinating about this series, they've played every year since 2006. The home team won every series from 2007 to 2016. The last 3 seasons, the road team has won the series. So hopefully for UCF's standpoint, they snap that streak. But it's going to be a big series, and I expect it to be low scoring, and it's going to come down to timely hitting. It is senior weekend, by the way.
In addition to that, in the standings, I mean, you're looking at the middle 2 teams in the American, because Houston is in 4th and UCF is in 5th. Houston, by the way, 8-6 in the league. UCF right now at 7-8. Still with quite a gap between them and the next team behind them, which is UConn. But UCF feels like they're hanging on by their fingernails to that upper tier of the American right now.
Yeah, no question about that. I mean, they faced the top 2 teams in the league, and we'll see what happens with Houston. This could be a preview of the opening round of the conference tournament. The way it looks like right now, it looks like UCF's probably going to play either Houston or Wichita State in that opening round in Houston. So, you want to be peaking going into that tournament and feeling good about yourself and feeling positive and feeling good about how you're playing going into that tournament. I think that's what it starts with this series with Houston to make a statement there. It's a big series, and we'll see what happens with these 2 teams. And like I said, it'll be interesting with Hebner and White pitching matchup. Who comes up with the timely hitting? Neither team depends on the long ball, which is very fascinating. So you're going to see a lot of sacrifices, and timely hitting is going to determine that series.
Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Friday at 6, Saturday 2, Sunday at noon for UCF. And you said, are they doing the senior day thing on Sunday? Because I know they have one more home game against North Florida on Wednesday. Is that right?
I haven't heard. I know this. They're doing a senior banquet at 6:00 Sunday night.
Okay.
It's out on social media. Go to UCF_softball. Go to UCFKnights.com. There's more details for fans actually could participate in that. Something new that Coach Paul Malone's brought here that she's done elsewhere, and that's do a senior banquet where fans can go out and hang out with the seniors. And so I'm actually going to be at that. That'll be on campus. So I'm looking forward to that. So there's details on that, UCFKnights.com. There's 3 seniors. Cassidy Brewer's been a 4-year senior. Aaron Emanuel has been a 2-year senior, and Brooke Barlow's a 2-year senior here.
Wait, Cassidy's the senior already, man. Is that true? Jeez,
yep.
Louise, man.
Yeah, it's going to be weird for me. I've known that kid since about 2010 because her sister Danielle played here in 2012, 2013. So she's been around this program for a long time.
Gosh, man, we are all getting old. All right. We're going to let you go, Eric, because I know you got more stuff we got to do. When we come back, we're going to talk baseball with Luke and Brian and wrap some things up as well on happenings from the week that was in UCF sports. All right, stick around. The Black and Gold Banneret Podcast is back after this. All right, back on the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast. Jeff Sharon, along with Brian Murphy and Savage Luke Sarris with you as we dive right back in. We're going to talk a little UCF baseball here with these two guys. And, the good news is they got the victory over Bethune-Cookman in walk-off fashion on Tuesday night, 5-4 in extra innings, thanks to a Matthew Micah bases-loaded hit. He went 3 for 5 with a home run the other day. But the fact remains for this team is that it's still
very good.
It's not great, Bob.
No.
Lost 2 out of 3 at Wichita. The one win was an 11-3 victory, but couldn't get the job done on Sunday. 6-4 was the loss. They have another key series coming up this weekend with Memphis at home, and Memphis is suddenly starting to look like they're at long last, after the last few years, really hitting a bit of a stride in terms of their baseball program. But looking back at this last weekend and the road series at Wichita, Murph, I'll begin with you. I guess it's just more of the same at this point, right? They're barely treading water.
Yeah, another series loss. Grant Sherman, I guess, if you look at his line, this Thursday night opener, the series opener on Thursday, he did not pitch well according to his line, but I thought he pitched better than the line states. He gave 8 earned runs, but really Wichita State just has some great at-bats against him. He gave up some seeing eye hits, and the defense behind him wasn't that strong. So, all that kind of came together. And when UCF can't, or when Sherman or Chris Williams isn't, at least at like a B+ level, UCF's going to have a hard time winning series because they just cannot win series finales for the life of them because they just don't have pitchers that can really give them any sort of depth or quality on Saturday or on Sundays on what's traditionally your Sunday game. So they lose the Sherman game. Chris Williams comes back on Friday, the middle game, pitches well. They really blow out Wichita State, but again, they can't carry it over, and they lose the finale. I think runners in score position has been the real focus of the week. There's a lot of talk about that after the game against Bethune-Cookman on Tuesday. I think Lovelady's words were, "We've been god-awful at it." And it's true. I think their OPS with like runners in score position and 2 outs, their OPS is like sub 600. Their batting average is like 220. They just do not. I mean, if you want to argue that clutch hitting doesn't exist, that's a different conversation. But in terms of hitting in timely fashion, they're not very good at it, and they have not been very good at it all year. And I think that was borne out mostly in that Thursday game against Wichita State. I think they went 3 for 18 with runners in scoring position and left 13 men on base. And I think 10 of those 13 men left on base were on second or third. And so that's a huge issue. It's dogged them a lot. It's going to continue to dog them until they can figure it out. And if you add that to their lack of pitching depth, both the starting rotation and the bullpen, which has been hurt by injuries, you've got a team that's strongly that is just so innately mediocre. That's what we've got.
Man, Savage Luke, how are you going to follow that one up? I mean, right now they're in second to last place at 5-10 in the league, which there are 3 teams right now tied with 5 wins: Memphis, Wichita, and UCF. And for UCF, only one of those wins was against Wichita State, but USF is in last at 2-10. And remember that the last place team in the regular season does not advance to the conference tournament. So
also remember that UCF has already played USF. They won that series, so they don't get to play. So really USF can't gain any ground on UCF because they've already played.
And USF is 2-10
Right.
in the conference. UCF is 5-10 in the conference. Luke, you have a different perspective on it. I don't know what, in your opinion, has been this team's just bugaboo, other than just everyone is injured.
I mean, injuries play a part. Well, first of all, let's look at it at where we are currently. So you got 13 games left in the season. You're 7 games above 500, and you're number 76 in the RPI.
Mm-hmm.
It really could be a lot worse.
That's fair.
You're still a top, for all intents and purposes, a top 75 RPI team with a lot of big RPI games left on the schedule. You got Miami. You have Miami, who's 14 in the RPI. You have FAU, who's 50 in the RPI. Houston, who's 37 in the RPI. You got some big games left. So the season's definitely not lost, especially with them, 7 games above 500 sitting at 76 in the RPI. So let's start with that before, we go saying things like, a player sucks or something like that, because that's just not right.
No one would say that.
No one on this podcast.
But the biggest thing to me has been, just lackluster pitching. I mean, you had a team last season who underperformed overall, but still had a 3.32 ERA. Now, obviously, you lost a lot of big names like J.J. Montgomery and Thad Ward, and Sheridan's still not back, and Bryce Tucker. So, those are some big arms that UCF lost and had to replace. But now you have a pitching staff that has a 4.01 ERA, and that's just not going to do it. Chris Williams has come back, but he's not pitching like he doesn't have the stats that you were expecting out of him. Like I said, we still don't have Joe Sheridan. So, I mean, yes, injuries tie into it. They lost Justin Parker as the pitching coach. I think that's the biggest. I mean, obviously, bad or offensively, they are challenged clearly. But that was also an issue they dealt with last season. But they were able to counteract that with decently strong pitching. You got guys like Griffin Bernardo, who is expected to have a big season, batting .222. That's just not going to cut it. And you lost guys like Ryland Thomas, and Lovelady was stuck trying to replace a lot of big pieces on this team, and right now there just isn't anybody really stepping up to replace those those gaps from last season. But lots of baseball yet to be played. 13 games, a lot can change.
Well, I think what's interesting is I was looking at the hitting numbers in the American. UCF right now is hitting .267 as a team, and that is 5th in the conference, just behind Memphis at .273. USF, who's last, is hitting .265. UConn, who is uncharacteristically struggling for them, is hitting .263. So those 3 teams who usually are pretty good year in and year out, especially with the bats, are all clustered in the middle of the conference within 4 percentage points of each other. UConn, by the way, 25-16 this year, 7-8 in the league. ECU continues to pace everybody at 11-1 right now, but man, this is just a topsy-turvy year in the American, isn't it? I mean, South Florida, who's usually really good and usually a contender late in the season, certainly were last year, 2-10 in the American. This is such a screwy year, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, really one of the biggest MLB draft. Well, I would say MLB draft risers in this conference is a guy on Tulane, which I don't think anybody. I mean, certainly Cody Hosey had a great year last year, but he has been amazing this year. And so when your best player is arguably your best player in the conference is on Tulane, I don't think anybody would have thought that really coming into this year. We all knew Alec Baum was way good last year, but we saw that coming. We knew that the UConn should be good, and then East Carolina has been great. So there's that. Everything else,
even so, they had that bad year last year, which was just like such an anomaly. Really,
it was a total outlier, right? It felt like a total outlier. It was like everything went wrong for them. They had a lot of injuries too. But going back to UCF, I guess they're kind of blessed by the fact that this conference is not as strong as it was last year. Now they've dropped a spot in the RPI. I think they're now 5th overall in the nation. They were 4th last year, but there's still a pretty wide gap from the talent level of what this conference was last year to this year. And I guess that helps UCF because come conference tournament time next month in Clearwater, it's really anything can happen. Again, I can see a lane where this team, makes some noise in the conference tournament if Grant Sherman and Chris Williams pitch well, which we know they can. Again, like Luke said, Chris has not been as consistent, but he's been solid, and Grant's been their best pitcher by far. If those guys give you good starts, and then you get, they basically have half an offense. They have Matthew Micah, Tyler Osick, Ray Alejo, Dallas Beaver, and maybe Dalton Wingo. And then other than that, you have no idea what you're getting from anyone else. If you can get some of those other guys clicking to go along with the guys at the top who are playing well, have consistently played well all year, and get those good starting pitchers, get those good starts out of Sherman and Williams, then you've got a chance. But again, that's so many things that need to come together. And I will say, I'll just finish on this. The key to any Lovelady team that we've seen since he's been here the last few years, he wants to have a dominant bullpen. He wants to shorten the game. And this team just doesn't have it. Unfortunately, it's due to injuries. They thought they were going to have David Litchfield. He hasn't pitched all year. He's out. They thought Zach Helsel would be a 7th inning guy for them. He's out with Tommy John. They thought they had Ryan Saltonstall as a grad transfer. He's out as well. Joe Sheridan's out. Trevor Holloway's out. There's just so many injuries that pitching staff, and that really hamstrings what Greg Lovelady's teams wants to do, which they don't want to outscore you. They want to outpitch you, and the pitching is just not there.
And I'm sorry, Luke. I was going to make this quick point. And yet, they have as a team, UCF is 3rd in the conference in ERA,
which is nuts.
Yeah,
Figure this.
ECU in Houston.
Figure this. Their 3rd best reliever right now, I would say, is probably. I would say, arguably, their 2nd best, but at least their 3rd best reliever is Zach Hunsaker, a freshman out of Missouri. He was probably going to redshirt this year, and I guess it's a good thing that they didn't redshirt him because they needed him, and he's been good. But that kind of tells you where this pen has been. This pen is just not what they thought it was going to be.
Go ahead, Luke. I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say, and then there are guys like Garrett Westberg who, I was actually expecting him to be the closer this season, and he's had some rough moments. So just injuries and lack of consistency with guys like Westberg and Chris Williams, and in my eyes, you're fighting an uphill battle.
Yeah. Well, they do have a chance to at least try and stop the bleeding against Memphis this weekend. The 3-game set will be once again at home. And by the way, Memphis comes in 20-18, 5-6 in the conference. They are in 6th place, one back of UConn, at least at this very moment. And first pitch Friday. It's the typical 6-6-1 weekend. So 6 p.m. Friday, 6 p.m. Saturday, 1 p.m. Sunday. And I think the weather's supposed to be good this weekend too, right, Murph? Is that right?
I hope so. I mean, if it's not, at least we have a covering in our media area, so we'll be okay. But
it's all about that. That's priorities.
Fend for yourselves, my people.
Friday, we got a 40% chance of showers in the afternoon, or early afternoon, late morning. But Saturday and Sunday should be nice. Sunday should be hot, 88 degrees. So, well,
it's gonna rain Friday. I got I have fancy club seats for Friday.
Around noon, they're expecting thunderstorms. It should clear out of here by game time, though. 6 p.m. they're expecting to be sunny.
Well, I'll be covered either way. with the other rich people.
There you go. so UCF against Memphis this week, and then the following they got UNF on Tuesday, but that's up in Jacksonville, and then they go to New Orleans to face Tulane the first weekend in May. When is that sort of bye weekend, Murph? Is that
bye weekend is the next to last weekend of the regular season? Gotcha.
Okay, so right before the Houston series, is that right? In between the Miami and FAU game? Yeah, that's right.
Correct. Yes. Okay. So UCF, basically, you see it like that USF is 2-10, and you said Memphis is what in the conference? Memphis is 5-6.
5-6. Yeah.
Yeah. UCF,
that's where it all evens out.
Yeah, UCF is 5-10. It evens out because they had a late season series against Dayton that was going to be scheduled, and then things happened that I won't get into, and it's not scheduled anymore.
I think Memphis also had a game wiped if they're at 5-6. That's not a multiple of 3 too. So I think that they must have had a game wiped due to I don't know, maybe weather or travel or something. I don't know, but I don't know the details on it. But I'm sure we'll figure it out later. All right. Let's wrap this thing up here as we finish up here on the Black Gold Banneret Podcast. Obviously, our NFL draft coverage is going to be ramping up on Thursday. We'll be keeping an eye on what happens with Tristan Hill and anybody else who goes early. And I think we're probably going to get a lot busier as the weekend happens on Saturday with the final rounds and, of course, the undrafted free agency. Savage Luke, what do you have coming up on tap? Just to remind everybody.
Wrapping up the Tristan Hill draft profile right now. Going to put together another profile of potential late rounders / undrafted free agents. And then what we didn't talk about today? The Alabama guard UCF got for basketball.
That's right. That's right. And we'll get the chance to actually do that a little bit more. I think probably next week, because we'll have, I guess, a more clear picture with basketball too. Because we don't know what's going to happen with Terrell Allen yet. But that was a pretty big pickup for UCF men's basketball too, because he's a 6'5" point guard. Is that right?
Correct.
Yep.
Yeah,
and Terrell Allen's actually, I believe this week is visiting Georgetown.
I did hear that about Georgetown. It's still not official yet that he is actually he hasn't said he's going to transfer. He might pull a Matt Williams still. What do we know about this guy from Alabama, Luke?
Not a whole lot. Which I was going to segue into. I will be writing a breakdown of him, and that's when I will learn more.
Yeah, Dazon Ingram is his name.
I posted that way too early starting 5, and then like the next day we got a center that nobody thought we were going to get, and then now it's all jacked up. So I need to go back and readdress that.
I know. Well, hey, that's why it was way too early, right?
Yeah.
It was up to the billing. Last year, Dazon Ingram, he was he was named Alabama's outstanding offensive player of the year as a freshman. He was second in scoring at 10.6 a game. Saw his scoring decrease over the years, but he is expected to. He is expected to transfer. Actually, he announced on his Instagram that he is transferring to UCF. And there's also been some rumors about Matt Milan, who's from Oviedo originally and played at William and Mary, but he's actually visiting UCF. He was a 13-point scorer, very good shooter. Milan's also thinking about Virginia. This is according to Jeff Goodman. He's also thinking about Virginia Tech, Charlotte, and Illinois, but he could come back home to Orlando. So that's another name to sort of keep an eye on. Go ahead, Murph.
Well, one thing I'll say about Ingram is I think his presence, even though we said that Terrell Allen is not officially gone, I think that pretty much shuts the door on Terrell Allen coming back.
Okay.
So we could assume, I would assume that Terrell Allen's not coming back, and I've been told that to expect, or don't be surprised if Ingram is the starting point guard for UCF next season. So there's that.
I'm so curious, and I might have missed something. I'm so curious as to why Terrell Allen wants to leave.
I don't know. That's a good question. Maybe we'll find something, but part of it's probably that maybe he wants to end his career with maybe a spot. Let's be honest here. Maybe he wants to go to another university as a grad transfer where he doesn't have to wait a year, where he can play for a team with a better chance of possibly making the NCAA tournament. We've said this before. We'll say it again.
How dare you?
UCF men's basketball is going to have a bit of a rebuilding year. And yes,
women's basketball too, for that matter, I should say. But
yes. And now they still have 2 open scholarship spots. So the additions to this roster are not done. You've mentioned Milan. He might be on that list as well. And then they would still have another roster spot. So you're going to see at least 2 more players added to this team in short order here. And we'll find out where that is. But obviously they needed a guard. They needed a point guard badly. They really didn't have anybody left with BJ and graduating and Terrell probably gone. You know, they had Tony Johnson, the commit, but he's a freshman.
Yeah.
Right. He's a true freshman. So you want to have him develop. So they bring in a guy, a grad transfer senior, who's a lanky kind of facilitating first guard. I think it's perfect for what Johnny Dawkins wants to do. Is it going to make them a tournament team? No, but it's at least makes them more respectable.
At least they stabilize the foundation, right?
They need it's just addressing a point of need, and I wouldn't be surprised if they went out and got another guard because their backcourt is decimated. And when you look at can you really trust Cesar DeJesus or even like a Frank Burtz? And they're different types of. They're not passing guards. They're more. Frank's a shooting guard, and Cesar is more of a drive and kick guy. But as far as facilitating, they don't really have anything other than Ingram right now. They don't have anything. So I wouldn't be surprised if they got another guard.
Yeah. So there you go, Luke. There's next week for you.
Yeah.
Not as early starting 5 for UCF men's basketball. That should be it. It really is like free agency. It's like all of a sudden, you know what the Magic have or the Knights have, guys? A lot of cap room. They got a lot of cap room. So
those 2 open scholarship spots are big.
Yeah, they got to fill that out. Murph, what are you working on this week?
Well, so I'm going to go out to baseball practice tomorrow, which will be Thursday. My usual Thursday preview that I do with the coaches and a couple players. I'll be talking.
Yeah.
It kind of, yes, we gather in his office and talk. I'll be talking about 2 things. One, Friday night is the annual Joe Skinner night for UCF Baseball. Joe Skinner, for those who don't know, was a UCF Baseball commit in 2015. He was going to join the team in 2016. He died of leukemia 5 months after being diagnosed. He died in April of 2016. The 3-year anniversary of his death is actually next week. There's always a month-long fundraiser that is held in honor of Joe that I'm trying to pull up the information to right now. But it's been held for the last 3 years. They have this goal to raise money to fight pediatric cancer research. I think last year or 2017 they raised $33,000. I think last year it was down to like $14,000. But anyway, you can find information on the UCF Athletics website. I'm sorry, I don't have the information, but you can go to skinnerstrong.org.
Yes, skinnerstrong.org.
Yeah, and you can find out how to donate there in Joe Skinner's memory. Joe Skinner, his legacy is still felt around this program. He should be a junior in this program right now. The Skinner Strong hashtag covers the right field wall. His jersey is up in the dugout for every game. They will be wearing jerseys with his name on the back of them, with his name on the back of every jersey on Friday night's game. It's something they've done every year since his passing, and it's a brilliant night. It's a really emotional night, especially for guys who are really close with him, like Dallas Beaver, who I hope to talk to tomorrow, because he and Joe were extremely close. So I will talk about that with some of the guys tomorrow. I will also talk to Lovelady about the recent major buzz off the field of college baseball, which was the recent denial to college baseball coaches of granting them a third paid assistant coach. And you can blame the Big Ten, the Big 12, and schools who voted down this what would you call it, Jeffrey? This regulation
It was an option. They were giving schools the option to make a third baseball and softball, by the way, a third assistant a paid position. So they weren't requiring it. They were merely asking to they were merely allowing it if schools decided to do so. And that got voted down, not by the coaches, but by the administrators, which is baffling. Now, you could make all kinds of other straw men to knock down for that. But the bottom line is I'm really interested to hear what Lovelady has to say about that, because those third assistants, man, they are volunteer assistants. They
for UCF, by the way, for UCF, that volunteer assistant is Ted Tom.
Yeah,
that's a volunteer assistant.
By the way, who was an interim head coach for at least one game last year, or actually the year before, in the American for Cincinnati, if I'm not mistaken, because their coach, I think, resigned right before their second game in the conference tournament. But like, this is a guy with, in the case of Ted Tom, this is a guy with significant experience. He's been around college baseball a very long time and has been a paid assistant in other places. Now he's a volunteer. It's still not clear in college baseball circles why that happened, and I'd be really interested to hear what Greg has to say about it, because he's pretty plugged in on it.
And Greg likes to talk, and I've been told that Greg has some hot takes with the bold around the word hot on this topic. So I look forward to talking to him tomorrow about this.
As I imagine you would, and he's not alone. There's a lot of other coaches around there that probably share the same takes as him. Go ahead, Luke. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't say anything.
Oh, okay. I thought I heard you.
edit that out. And make sure you edit this out.
I'll edit that out. Okay. 27 minutes. All right. Let's wrap this thing up here. And by the way, I also did want to thank Jeremy Brenner too. He's going to be doing a little bit of draft work for us as well. And I also wanted to pass along congratulations to Zach Goodall, our buddy from who ran around in Jacksonville Jaguars circles. He actually is going to the University of Florida, and it was just announced he's going to be working for UF's rival site. So our loss to some extent is definitely their gain. So I wanted to congratulate Zach on a job well done, and he'll always have. We know that if we cut deep enough, there's some black and gold there somewhere. So congrats to Zach, and I'm sure we'll be seeing him again down the line here too. So as we wrap things up, make sure you follow us at blackandgoldbanneret.com. Follow us on Twitter at UCF_Banneret and Facebook.com/blackandgoldbanneret. Follow us each individually at Jeff_Sharon, Spokes_Murphy, Luke Sarris, SBN, and of course you can follow Eric Lopez at Eric Lopez Elo. For all of us here at Black and Gold Banneret, I'm Jeff Sharon saying thanks for listening. Enjoy the weekend. Enjoy NFL Draft Weekend. This has been the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast. We'll catch you again next week.